everyone, and welcome to Promote Hope Podcast, episode 12, Wife Life. And I have a special guest that I'm going to be interviewing about her wife journey. I chose someone who I connected with on that level of being a wife. We talk about our wifehood. We actually met on Instagram, and we just had some very similarities as our journey of faith. And then we both were getting ready to get married. Excited to share with you guys today about the wife life, and I am so excited to have my friend Mica Delaney here with me.
Hi guys.
And at the end, Mica is going to share with us her ministry. She also has her own ministry, so we'll be sharing that with you guys more toward the end. But let's begin. Hi, Mica. How are you today?
Hi, Ivory. It was nice to talk with you. I'm excited to be on.
Yes, thank you so much for being willing to be on the podcast, to share your life, share your story, your transparency. I so appreciate that.
Yeah, I think the women actually need to hear it. This is going to be a great topic, so I'm excited to talk about it.
Yeah. Well, let's first start off by you telling us a little bit about yourself.
So, again, my name is Mica Delaney. I am 30 years old. I am married to Trevor Delaney. And we have two beautiful girls. Her name is Kinsley, and the other is Leia. Kinsley will be 2 in September, and Leia is actually 7 months. So we have two young ones, of course. I also just graduated about 2 years ago from Liberty University. I did receive a master's in human services counseling, marriage, and family. And then prior to that, I did have a bachelor's degree in master's of science in psychology. So yeah, that's pretty much a little bit about me. I'm actually also, I did want to let you guys know, I do live in Richmond, Virginia. VA, always been here. So I love it. But yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Well, thank you so much for joining me. I so appreciate it. Again, like I was saying, we met on Instagram, and we still have never met in person.
Right. And you
One
live
day,
on the other side of the world.
all the way, honey, all the way. But one day, I believe that God is going to bring us together, and we're going to look back and be like, remember we did that video?
Yeah.
You know.
I'm
So
excited.
again, tell us how long you've been married.
So Trevor and I, my husband, we've been married for actually, well, this is the 5th year. So we'll be 5 years, November 7th, 2020. So yeah, we've been rocking and rolling. We met in the year 2015.
Okay. So you guys didn't take long to meet and decide I want to get married.
Oh, honey. So let me tell you. Let me tell you. I was in my singleness life, enjoying my singleness, and it was just me and God. And I wasn't thinking about dating. I mean, I wasn't worried about a man at that time. And I think I had just got out of a relationship. It was a really bad relationship. And at that point, I was just kind of like, God, I just want it to be me and you. And the next guy you send, I want, this man to be my husband. And I want this man to love you more than he loves me. So, yeah. Yeah. So, when Trevor came, it was like, man, I don't want to talk to you. I don't think we should be together. And I was pushing him off, but the Holy Spirit was basically saying, no, you need to move forward in this journey. Like, I brought this man to you. And I'm just like, girl, I didn't think I was ready. I was not.
And it's so interesting that a lot of stories that I hear, including my own, starts with, I didn't really want to be, in that marriage or in that relationship, or like for me, I too was on my own journey. I had had enough of dating. I had enough, and then boom. Like, but when I was trying to find it, when I was trying to find my way and all that stuff, like that's when Oh, those were no-goes. All of a sudden, when I shifted to the father and I shifted, my mindset, all of a sudden, and I thought that thing too, girl.
Yeah, I was literally, and Trevor had came to me, and you as you start dating some people, you tend to share what's going on in your life. And Trevor had particularly told me that he was in school to be a minister. And
Mhm.
when he told me that, it was just like, God, I don't think I'm worthy enough to be a first lady.
Yeah.
I don't think I can fit that.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to pursue that. And at that point, I was still pushing it off. It took a whole month for me and Trevor to actually go on our first date.
Yeah.
A whole month.
Oh, you pushed that off. Oh, you pushed that off.
Right.
Well, once you guys were dating and you guys decided, he asked the question and you guys did decide to get married, did you guys take marriage counseling?
Yeah. So that I feel like that's definitely important for our marriage, or for someone who's looking to get married.
Mhm.
We did decide to go to his pastor, and we had marriage counseling for about 3 or 4 weeks or so. I think that that is definitely something that needs to happen, because we were able to sit down and to talk about expectations, what we expected going forward in this
Right.
marriage,
Right.
what, some of the stuff that people don't want to talk about, all the way from intimacy to who's taking out the trash, who's cleaning up, who's going to do this, who's going to do that. This is what, I think counseling really was. We were able to have this platform where we were able to talk about it
Mhm.
in a safe way, where
Mhm.
there were no arguments, no disagreements. It was a pastor,
Yeah.
myself, and Trevor, you
Yeah.
know.
And I think
So,
what's wonderful about counseling is it kind of gets our mind more thinking about that direction, because even though Hap and I were engaged, we actually had a very rough portion before we got married. And I
mm,
believe that it was the marriage counseling
mhm.
that helped us, really lock in and say, okay, this is what we're agreeing to do.
Mhm, mhm. I
So,
believe that.
yeah, it brought up some points like, okay, we got to really think about this.
Mhm,
So I would say that marriage counseling is actually what saved us,
mhm,
because it put us in a space to really talk about the things that we expected. Even though now that I'm married, I think we need a remarriage counseling. What do you think about that? Like, do you think that we should, like, every
So,
so often be getting re-poured into as couples?
so I always have this motto. Of course, I came out of a master's program with marriage and family. Is to You're gonna always need a tune-up. You can't just go to premarital counseling and think that this is just gonna solve your issues or problems. It's okay to still go to counseling, even though if you're not having issues or problems. It's okay to sit in front of somebody, and I call it particularly a tune-up. We need to sit down and we need to have someone in the middle and actually discuss, how are we doing so far? What are you struggling with? What are some good things? What are some bad things that we are experiencing right now in the marriage? And I feel like that's um, a plus to the marriage, because of the fact that it's just going to help you grow and become closer,
Mhm.
um, as we continue to um, move forward. So yeah, I believe that it's definitely a plus to have that. We personally just went through counseling not too long ago, and it was just what we call, it's just a tune-up. It wasn't having any issues or anything. It was just someone to sit down and to just talk about how things were going. The year 2020, girl, it was rough.
Yeah. Okay. And how did your husband receive? Did you ask him to go to counseling? Was he okay and open to go, or did you have to kind of like pull teeth?
No, he was actually on the same page with me. We were
Great.
excited. We were like, okay, let's talk to somebody. And like I said, we tend to look at counseling like it's a bad thing every
Right.
time, and it's not. It's always, I feel like it's a plus. It's an
Right.
enhancement to you. it's going to help you grow, especially for me personally, being a believer and a Christian, to always, even just to go to Christian counseling,
Yeah.
someone who has that platform of that background of our particular faith.
Yeah. And Hap and I are dealing with some interesting things in our marriage. And it's like when you can't compromise, when he has his mind made up and I have my mind made up, we have to seek a third party who we trust. You know what I mean? And someone who is a believer like us, who's going to lead us into a direction of, kingdom living, kingdom thinking, because that helped me to soften up a little bit. You know what I mean? Sometimes having other help and other people come in, not everybody. I mean, like again, I said, someone you trust, someone, a third party, maybe even the pastor and his wife. You know what I mean? Like whatever the case may be, but I believe that a third party sometimes when you're dealing with stuff that you guys just can't compromise with, because
Right.
there's sometimes decisions that you guys have to make, and who wins, right? Who wins?
Exactly.
So the next question that I wanted to ask you was, what was your ideal of marriage before you got married? Like, what was your ideal of being a wife? What kind of wife did you want to be?
So I had this perception that going into marriage, it was going to be lovey-dovey, where we're going to always be under one another. We were just going to be best friends. Like, we were going to do everything together. Like, oh my gosh, this was going to, and for me particularly, I'm going to side note, me and Trevor, we decided to be celibate before we got married, and we wanted to honor God in that. And then also, we didn't live together. So it was a totally different experience after we got married, because it was, now we were trying to learn one another. And of course, we went from never really seeing each other probably to twice or three times a week to now being under each other every day. And of course, the man, I thought he was excited as much as I was, because we would see each other every day. And, we would come, I would get off of work and I'm like, oh, I can't wait to go home. But as I would say, the honeymoon stage didn't last long.
Amen.
It didn't last long, you were going to have your disagreements. You're going to really start to see what this person truly was or who they were.
Yeah.
Now you went from, like I said, seeing that person from 3 times a week probably to now every day, and you're like, wait, I didn't see that when we were courting.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, overall, I had this expectation that everything in a nutshell, it was just going to be okay. Like, we were just not going to have any problems, and we were just going to be the best friends in the world. And God was like, no.
Marriages.
No.
The marriages.
No.
So my next question is, do you have anybody, or did you have a couple that you looked up to that you got your inspiration from about marriage, or did you just always know, I want to be married?
Well, growing up, I was surrounded by a lot of older women that were married for 20, 30, 40 years. And we tend to look, I personally, I would look at those type of marriages and I would say, that's what love truly is. I mean, when you look at someone who's been married for 30, 40 years, 20 years, whatever the case is, they have a lot of wisdom. They went through a lot. And some of them tell you that, again, it's not going to be easy, that they went through some things. And that was an inspiration to me, because on the back end, you see, a lot of divorces, and especially I would say in our generation, a lot of people not making it through because it got hard. And my pastor used to say, this generation, we think that we live in a microwave generation. We believe that we want things
Quick
and fast and quick. In a marriage, it's going to take time. It's, I always used to tell myself, if you're not ready for marriage, if you are not ready to die to your flesh, you're not ready to grow, and you're not give. You forgiveness is definitely something that is very big in marriage. I just feel like if you are not ready to forgive and have grace, then honey, you are not ready for marriage.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was such a shock to me, Mica, that when me and my husband got married, I thought Hap could like do no wrong. Like,
Mm,
I thought Hap was like the man of God. And I thought what a man of God was like a perfect person. But a
mm,
man of God is just like when I call myself the kingdom woman, I'm talking about all of me, the goods, the bads, the things I'm working on, the deliverance, the things that my insecurities. Like I'm talking about all of it.
right.
I thought about Hap being the God fearing man. I wasn't thinking about the negatives and stuff that he faced. I was thinking about just this perfect, close to God, knight in shining armor. So when I got married to Hap and I saw who he really was, which he's not a bad person, but okay, he leaves his clothes on the floor. Wait, you supposed to be a man of God. Like
Right,
you
right.
ain't supposed to have your clothes on the floor. You ain't supposed to leave the house a mess. You ain't supposed to, have an attitude or go in the other room and not talk to me. So I was set back because of my own expectations. You know what I mean? And I actually had to take some time to reprogram my mind that Hap is a human being.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Girl, I don't know what I thought he.
I said the same thing. I mean, and for me, it was coming from a man who was actually going to be a minister.
Yeah.
Still in process right now that
Yeah.
he couldn't do any wrong. Like,
Yeah.
guy, why is he talking to me like this? Why he doing this? Why he not? And don't get me wrong, my husband is an awesome man.
Right. Right.
You
Right.
know, there's times where we all have disagreements, but I would look to him and I would say, well, I would look to God and say, well, he's not supposed to be doing that. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
I had this expectation that he was going to be perfect and that he couldn't do no wrong. And my godmom, she said one thing to me. She said, he's a man just like any other man. Just because the fact that he's in school to be a minister or God is calling him to be a pastor, whatever the case is, he is a man when he gets home. You cannot put an expectation on that saying that he's just supposed to be this perfect person because he's not. He's not.
And the hardest part about being a wife is like, what's the part?
I think now that we have 2 kids, for me personally, being a wife is learning to balance being a mother and a wife.
Yeah.
I look at, today, I want to spend time with my kids and I want to give them everything that they need. But
Right.
then also, I don't want to put my marriage on the back burner. I don't want to be so focused on my kids that I forget my husband. We get so consumed sometimes with being so caught up with our children and, not just our children, but I mean, other things that we may be involved with, whether it's ministry, whether it's working, whether you're in school, that we tend to put our marriage on the back burner. And we got to realize that, God says it's, God is first, then it's your marriage, then it's your children, and everything else trickles down. So it was hard for me to learn how to balance between both because sometimes I would neglect my husband or I'd be so tired and I was just so consumed with other things that I was just like, I don't really want you to touch me. I don't want to do this. And I had to learn to create balance because my husband needed me, you know. Um, we have to pour into our husbands as much as they pour into us. So we're the rock. We hold the whole family together.
Yeah. And
So I don't really keep
that's a big responsibility.
right. That's, I wouldn't say hard, but it's challenging sometimes because some days you just want to throw in the towel and you say, God, I came through this. I don't know why you gave me all this.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. I love it. Oh, I'm grateful for it. But some days it is definitely difficult because I am trying to do everything. And then my husband is like tugging me like, hey, babe, come on. I'm like, ooh, I'm tired. I'm tired. And, I don't want to disappoint him. I don't want to get him upset or we get into a disagreement argument because of the fact that we haven't spent time together. So I would say, yeah, that is something difficult and challenging is learning to balance.
Yeah.
both of those roles, particularly for me.
Yeah. And we're responsible for our kids. You know what I mean? We got to keep them alive. We got to feed them. We got to take care of them. We got to make sure they're breathing. It's a big responsibility to be a mother, right? And then it's a big responsibility to be a wife. And then it's a big responsibility to be yourself.
That's
right?
good.
Because I kind of still want to be Ivory. I kind of still want to, if I feel like sleeping in today or doing this today, does that all go out the window? Like the sacrifice is real.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
Exactly.
if I can just be transparent, I feel like I have to sacrifice everything as a wife, as a mom, as a woman. I feel like I have to sacrifice because I am the rock. You know what I mean? Because I am responsible, because I have 3 kids under 3. You know, I have 3 little babies, and then a husband, and then a house to keep clean, and then myself to keep clean, and then my weight I want to work on, and I don't want things to get out of control, and then my boundaries, and then being a daughter and like it's a lot to do in one day. You know what I mean? So I'm learning how to be kind to myself and one day at a time and ask Cap. I've learned to ask Cap to get involved because if we're going to spend time and you want me to spend time with you, then can you help me with some of my responsibilities? You know what I mean? And it was funny because we just went on a date night and we were talking about the kids.
That's all.
Like, you know what I mean? We need to figure out who we are. And you were talking about 2020, and I was telling Hat that I feel like me and his marriage have shifted because we're seeing each other. We're not really missing each other. We're always home. We're always here. We're always like, it's not spicy. It's just like autopilot right now. So then we have to keep that in our forefront and really work at the marriage, you know?
I can say that for me personally, I'm going to be open and transparent as well. 2020 has not been easy for my husband and I. My husband had lost his job, and right now it's me and him, and we're taking care of the kids. And he's here 24/7. Of course, I work from home because we aren't able to go out right now. So it's just been an interruption and a change on all of our lives. And it has been challenging for our marriage, for us to be able to try to keep pushing through, because there's some days where we just wanted to say, I give up. I don't want to do this anymore. But we know I had to go back to it and say, we took God out of the center of our marriage. I want to let women know that when you get married, there is you, your husband, and then God in the center. The moment you take him out and you put him on the back burner, this is where your marriage starts to decline. And we took prayer out, we took devotion out, we started getting so consumed, we were so busy, we were so worried, and then God was just like, you got rid of me. You got rid of me. And it, you can't function in a marriage without God in the center. And I had to realize that, even though it's so hard and you're so tired, push for your devotional time, push for your prayer time, push for you guys to have time with one another. Me and Trevor had to come up with a structure or some type of schedule where maybe on Mondays or Tuesdays we sit down and we have a tune-up session ourselves where we talk and we come together and say, how are we feeling? Where's your mind at? Let's talk about it. Let's discuss it, because we don't want to get to a place where we're just like, I don't want to do this anymore. And 2020 is definitely going to drive. It's 2020. I'm pretty much. It probably drove a lot of marriages that way.
Well, that's so powerful. But what while you were talking, what I was thinking is, that is amazing that God brought you to that place, right? Because it was time for you to nurture that in your marriage, or for me to nurture that. So sometimes we look at the glass, half empty, when God is really like, okay, now I want you to learn how to schedule, the time together and figure out how to make it work. Like, so these situations and circumstances come in our lives so that we can be better and figure it out. You know what I mean? Because it's making you better. We don't like it. I don't like the way that 2020 came about, but it's definitely teaching me how to go with the flow of life. I ain't got no choice.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I don't have a choice. So I just think that, and it ties into my next question about communication. Like, you're saying we schedule time to sit down and talk, and we schedule this moment because life happens. Like, life happens. We have been trying to read this book together for the last 3 years. Girl, we done had 3 kids. We done had all types of stuff happen in between. We only on chapter 5, and I feel so convicted right now because it's like 13 chapters, and we should have been done when we were motivated and devoted to start it together. Like, why didn't we finish? Why did we not finish the book together? And I feel convicted by you sharing right now because it's like, dang, I lost that drive. When we first bought the book, we were driven, we were excited, we were like, yes, let's invest in our marriage. And like 5 years late, 3 years later, it's like, where the book even at? I'm gonna pull it out today. I'm gonna pull it out today. But we bought the Kingdom Marriage book, wanting to invest in our marriage, and it's like marriages feel like it's the easiest thing to put on the shelf. You know what I mean? It feels like it's one of the easier things to just put away. And I'm going to do that. I love my husband. No?
It's funny you say that. It's because Trevor and I, we did buy a book last year, and we were supposed to read it together. And keep in mind, my husband, he loves to read. He has a whole library, but it's hard to get him involved sometimes because he's so consumed with what he wants to read. So yeah, I can say we are with you guys because we had a book we wanted to read, but we probably didn't even get past chapter 1 or chapter 2. So I agree that sometimes we get so distracted where we're able to just go ahead and set our marriage on the shelves, and we're just like, we'll come back to it later. It's okay. We live together. We'll see. We'll get to it one day. And then eventually, as you continue to keep doing that, then that's what leads to trouble in your marriage, or that's detrimental to your marriage because of the fact that you're just putting it on the shelf and we're not dealing with the problems or the issues and coming together to talk. So yeah, I mean, healthy communication. Me personally, I'm the one that always wants to talk about issues and problems, but my husband is the one that wants to go into the room and shut the door and say, "Not right now."
Yeah, I feel that.
Which can be very difficult because, you're this type of person, and, I've always had this mindset, we can't go to bed angry. Let's talk about it. Let's deal with it. And he on the other hand, it's like, no, I'm not ready to talk about it right now. And I'm having to learn how to respect where he is.
I don't want to, but I guess I have to.
Right. Which is very challenging.
Yeah.
How do you work through that? How do you, and I think that's where we go back to what we were talking about counseling, where it's important to have someone there to let's talk about healthy communication. Because sometimes healthy communication and just regular communication is totally different, because sometimes when we're sitting down and talking, it can lead to a disagreement or can lead to an argument. Now, healthy communication is, I want to create a safe space where we're not going to argue and come at one another. We're just going to talk about it and how I approach you.
Not there yet. I'm almost healthy, but I'm not there yet. But like a word I want to pull out is challenges. So we have children. You have 2 beautiful girls. I got 3 kids. Okay. When you first got married to Trevor and you had no children, who are you versus who you are now with 2 children?
Wow. I can say before the kids came, I was all for Trevor. I was serving. I was, as he would say, it was times where he would get up. He had to be to work in the morning at 7 o'clock. I was up at the crack of dawn with him. I didn't have to be to work to 8:30, 9 o'clock. So I was up at the crack of dawn with him, making him breakfast, making sure his clothes was laid out, making sure that he had his lunch. I was making sure that he was straight. Girl, we were praying before we would leave out the door.
Come
Girl,
on,
we
come
we
on.
were having devotional time. We would get up on Saturday mornings and spend time with one another. It looked so much different when it was just us two, and we were still steadily working on one another and learning to um, grow together. That leads me to Genesis 2:24. As we were still learning to become one flesh,
Yeah.
we were still learning that, and um,
Fun times.
right, it was. We always look at it now like, oh my gosh, remember when we used to just get up and we didn't have to take a diaper bag with us? We or two kids. um
Yes.
Versus now where it's very, I would say for me now with having two kids, it's harder to serve my husband
Yeah.
back then, versus now.
Yeah. I'm
Um,
exhausted, sis. I'm exhausted.
mhm,
I'm literally exhausted.
mhm,
And, me and my husband have to spend time at 10 p.m. I get up
mm,
at 6 o'clock a.m. and I go all the whole day and then
mhm,
give him maybe like 15 minutes, like, hey, how you doing? What you doing? How was work? I may say that when he get home, but like really talk about it. The kids are asleep. I've had my shower. He's at his shower. Like that's our moment to really just spend time. And I'm tired. By 10
right.
o'clock,
Yeah. Yeah.
my
Especially if
eyes
you're up at 6. Mhm. Mhm.
and I miss that. As you're talking about your beginning stages, I miss that um time with Hab. And I would share with anyone who desires to get married or just got married with no children to enjoy that time together, because once the children come, you have to fight for that time or
Yeah.
even remember that time or desire to even want that time, because it's kids, it's this, it's that, it's your mom brain, you're grown, you're getting older, things are changing, you're changing.
Mhm.
So you have to even still be willing to, let's just lay in the bed today. Like, don't nobody got time for that. These kids is up, they crying, this, that. Like, don't nobody got time for that. But gosh, when it was, there, how much I took it for granted.
Right. Exactly. I'm glad you said that because I was thinking about that the other day where I was just like before the kids, I was so excited to just, it was relaxing to
Yeah.
be able to get up and do what you want to do. Go wherever you wanted to go,
Yeah.
spend the Saturday together, spend, the night together, do whatever we want to do. And now it's just a whole different mindset. And like I said, I think I took that for granted. And then when the kids came, it was like, man, I wish I can have that back.
Yeah.
If when you do have kids, um, there's some people who may have support, and there's some people who don't have support.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Trevor and I, we do have babysitters, grandparents that may take the kids here and there, but it's not a everyday thing or every week thing. So it's very difficult sometimes to incorporate that date time or that alone time. And right now we are struggling with two kids still sleeping in our rooms. They wanted to
Woo!
sleep in.
For real. We'll put them all in their bed, but somehow they all end up in
Right.
the bed with us. It's crazy.
At 3 o'clock, girl, they are all in there, right?
All in the bed. And I know people are always like, get them kids out your bed. Don't be having kids in your bed, but they just magically appear. They magically appear, like, and I'll be too tired to put them back. Sometimes Hap will put them back, but most nights we just like go and get at the foot.
Right, exactly. There's some nights where my oldest will end up in the bed with us and I'm looking at Trevor like, did you bring her in here? And he's like, no. And I'm like, well, she just crawled up in the middle with us like it won't no problem. Okay.
And everybody just roll over and keep it
Right,
moving.
right.
Well, I want to ask you, so you guys, everybody's marriages are different. Everybody's marriages look different. but we can relate. But every marriage, again, looks different because I have this amount of kids, you may have this. I have this kind of work I do, you may have this. So there may be different marriages, but a lot of it's relatable when you get married. I know people decide to do different things of how they run their household. Do you and Trevor share the like chores and stuff, or do you like pretty much do everything? I mean, not to put Trevor down. Trevor, we love you, bro. But I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like wife life. Do you take on that wife role very seriously, or do you kind of ask for him to share the load?
Yeah, I really do. Sometimes where I do feel like I'm Superwoman and I do take on that role. But then this is where I had to say, you can't do it all. You need your husband's help. And with him being here now, I thank God for him. Although he's not able to contribute financially due to COVID, he's able to contribute in other ways. Meaning he's been here to help raise the kids. He's been able to help keep up with the house, and he's been washing the clothes, and he's been cooking, and he's been cleaning. He's been doing those things while I'm able to still work and do the things that I do. Thank God for him stepping up for that, because not a lot of men can do that. So yes, we do share the chores when it comes to, I don't think, we are this type of couple where we feel like, Trevor has to do the outside work and the woman does the inside work.
Okay.
We share responsibilities. Hey babe, can you clean the bathroom really quick? Sure, no problem. Hey babe, can you throw a load of clothes in? No problem. I'll get outside and cut grass with my husband if I have to, just to help him, because we are a team. We work together as one. I have that mindset.
So. And when we were growing up, or, our parents growing up, you saw the woman doing everything in the home and then the dad's going out to work. Well, this generation, we have to do it a little bit differently. Like, I think that a lot of homes have to have like 2 income. You know what I mean? Like, we can't just stay home like we used to. I don't understand why. Maybe we're not diligent with our money. I don't know, but it's harder for us to stay home and, the husbands just go to work, and that may be some people's situation, but it hasn't always been ours, especially we keep having kids.
Right.
So that hasn't been and then we want to do stuff with our kids, so and we want to give them a certain lifestyle, right? But I think that whatever you and your husband agree on, as long as you guys agree that works for your household, then nobody else, it shouldn't be measured like you're not doing wife life right, or you're doing it right. It's really measured and based off of what you and your husband have decided for your home. So if that works for your house, I just want women to not feel so, because sometimes some husbands, like you said, are out there like, I'll clean up, I'll do the dishes, and we'll run ourselves ragged because we have this stereotype that wives have to do everything. But whatever works for your household, like you and your husband sit down and have a conversation and say, hey, okay, what are we doing with our house? What's our vision? Like this weekend, me and my husband are going to do a vision board about our marriage, because we have to decide what works for our house. And like, again, I said that may look different from the other people and what they think works for their house. And we have to respect that. I felt some heat of women thinking, oh my gosh, you do that, or you don't do that, or girl, I cannot get up and cook breakfast for half. I can't. I tried it. I tried it. I can't. My soul, my body just won't get. My body just won't get up to breakfast. And somebody may think, "Oh, you a bad wife." But you can't label me as a bad wife, because me and my husband have that agreement and it works for our house.
Yeah, exactly.
But I'm just wanting to share with people that marriage is what you make it. It's not, what you see in the movies. Okay, I'm just going to do that. It's what you and your husband created to be. My husband is the better cook. I don't know how it got that way. His food is so good. Like, I don't know. I don't know. Mine is like basic everyday, we're going to have a meal together, but his is seasoned with like love. Like he got like, his steaks on a grill, like he just cooked like different, it hit different.
Right.
So I prefer him to cook. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
hey, can you cook today?
Mm-hmm.
Can you cook today? Okay, can you cook Monday through Friday?
No, babe.
Does that make me a bad wife?
Mhm.
You know what I
No.
won't make you a bad wife to people who are becoming a wives or in wifehood, who put themselves down or, carry the stereotype like, I got to do this. I have to do this. Talk to your husband. That's your partner.
Mm-hmm.
Discuss with your husband the things that, what will work for your house. So my last question to you is, what advice will you give to ladies who desire to be married?
Um, so going back to when we first started talking about when we were single, in this period or in this time, I know that we all have this vision that we want to be married and we want to have kids. It seems like that's our ultimate goal as many women. We want to have that. We see, that on social media, we see it on TV. I want to be that. I want to have that. And what I want to tell you, ladies, is that this is the moment that you need to work on your relationship with Christ and get yourself together. Because if you are not pulled together, then how can you be someone else's wife? God has to prepare you, has to pour into you, has to give you what you need in order to prepare you for you to be somebody's wife. Because if you're not there, then you're not going to make it in marriage. So I thank God for me having that time where I was able to build that relationship with him. I was able to where God was able to download and pour into me what he needed to pour into me before I was able to get married. I missed that time.
Yeah.
Because I know that, there were times where I can just come home and open the Bible and it just be me and God.
Yeah.
Now I'm really forcing myself and pushing to have devotional time with God, because I'm like, God, I don't want to put you on the back burner, but I got a husband, I got kids. When do I do it? So I say this to say is to develop that time and to definitely allow God to pour into you during your singleness, so that he's able to prepare you for marriage. Because like I said, marriage is not easy. You have to have that heart of forgiveness, and you have to learn to die to your, die to your flesh, because it ain't about you anymore. If you have this mindset where you're going in and it's, he don't do this for me and he don't do this for me, girl, and girl, he did this, you got to let that all has to go out the window. Because when you get married, again, it's about serving your spouse. How can you serve your spouse?
And that brings up a point to me, like, you should get some people in your corner, because having some other wives that are like-minded and that are, Christian and kingdom, they will help you to fight for your marriage. Just having that squad of maybe one or two people that'll say, let's pray for him, instead of, girl, I'll leave him. Because I could have left half over several. Okay.
You know what? You said that, I don't know if you remember, but we were talking, it was just years ago, and you reminded me, I think it was a situation where we were coming across some friends, and we were talking about husbands, but you had said something to me that stuck with me till this day. We have to learn how to cover our husbands.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
in the midst of everything that's going on, you got to find you somebody that's not going to sit up here and gossip with you about your husband, that's going to get on your knees and pray with you about your husband, and teach you that you got to learn to cover your husband in this time.
Yeah. And I appreciate you right now, because again, you've been convicting me this time, because like I said, I put my marriage on the shelf, and not of a sense of divorce, but like, okay, we'll reconnect soon. Like maybe when COVID over, we can reconnect. You know what I mean? And that is so unacceptable and so unfair to have, and so unfair to myself. Because have I been covering my husband in prayer, in conversation? I have to sit and evaluate that and think about that. What would you say to women like us who are newly married under 7 years?
So for me, I would say the first 2-3 years, you're gonna still that time is for you guys to learn one another. You are still learning one another, and it's okay if you fall, because all you have to do is just get back up. You got to get back up. You got to get back up, and you got to keep pushing, and don't allow anyone to discourage you and tell you um, that it ain't gonna work,
Yeah.
because if you take God at the center, then that's the mindset you're going to have. But if you continue to have God in the center of your marriage, I promise you, He is definitely going to give you what you need to push forward as a wife. He is going to definitely strengthen you. You know, my prayers um, in the beginning of my marriage was, God, make me, show me how to be a wife.
Mhm.
Show me how to pour into my husband. Show me how to pray for my husband. Show me how to cover my husband. Show me how to do these things, because I don't want to be in divorce. I want this marriage to last. I
Yeah.
want my children to look at how I am as a wife. Show me how to do those things. And
Yeah.
that's your prayer that you have to tell God every day. You know, let him know this is new to me. I don't know. Show me.
Yes. Well, tell us a little bit about your ministry. Tell us about the Covered Woman.
So, the Cover Woman just launched. And actually, it was the end of May going into June.
Okay.
So, I'm going to be so totally honest with you guys. I was putting it off for years and years. God has been always telling me to start up a women's ministry, but I have just been to a point where, God, I don't have time for that. I'm a wife. I'm a mom. How am I supposed to do all of these things? And I was telling my husband the other day that COVID-19 has really put people in a position where God is dealing with them.
Yeah.
And, you know, this year,
Yeah.
God was, at this point, he was telling me, you have the time to invest into this
Jesus.
ministry. You sitting at home. This is the perfect time.
Jesus.
So I was, I'm grateful to be able to launch it. It is a women's ministry, and it's for all women. I'm excited. We do have a website where you guys can go on. It's thecoveredwoman.com. God has definitely been pouring into me what he wants, or his vision for this actual ministry. So, it's so many things to come. We are,
Yeah.
we're doing YouTube videos every 2 weeks. We're trying to put out material. We do have an Instagram page and a Facebook page where you can connect to, as well as, again, eventually we are hoping to launch an online store where you're able to get the Covered Women items.
Ooh.
Yeah, so God has been faithful, Ivory. I am so grateful
That is
for the time. You guys can find me at thecoveredwoman.com, and you can subscribe to the website, as well as you can follow us on the Facebook page, and it's The Covered Woman, and our IG, our Instagram, which is The Covered Woman _. If you are looking for a ministry to get plugged into, definitely we would love to have you. And again, it's for all women. We are excited. Again, God is definitely moving, and there's so many exciting things getting ready to happen with this ministry. So yeah.
I'm just so honored to have met you 5 years ago. And God moved different. So you have to be ready to receive the way God's moving, because there's nothing like what we would have done. I asked God to help me work on my marriage, and then he gonna let 2020 happen. Okay, all you had to do, sir, was give me a little extra money. No.
Right, exactly. I didn't, and sometimes our ways are not God's ways. He's like, wait a minute, you're trying to tell me what I need to do.
No. So I am just so excited and so joyful that you are passionate about what you're doing. And how do you feel now that you're doing it?
It's a great feeling, and I want to say that I feel like I'm pleasing God and I'm being obedient. There is a times where you feel like sometimes you're putting it on a back burner and you're not here. It's for all women. We are excited. Again, God is definitely moving, and there's so many exciting things getting ready to happen with this ministry. So yeah.
I'm just so honored to have met you 5 years ago. And God moved different. So you have to be ready to receive the way God's moving, because there's nothing like what we would have done. I asked God to help me work on my marriage, and then he gonna let 2020 happen. Okay, all you had to do, sir, was give me a little extra money. No.
right, exactly. I didn't, and sometimes our ways are not God's ways. He's like, wait a minute,
No,
you're trying to tell me what I need to do.
no. So I am just so excited and so joyful that you are passionate about what you're doing. And how do you feel now that you're doing it?
It's a great feeling, and I want to say that I feel like I'm pleasing God and I'm being obedient. There is a times where you feel like sometimes you're putting it on a back burner and you're not here. Um, you just don't want to do it, and then there's times where you feel like you're not hearing from God. But then once you start walking in your obedience and your purpose, then God is just starting to pour into you, and He's just like, "This is what I've been telling you to do." And just quickly, just to tell you, my husband told me that you're whatever God is calling you to do, you're going to feel the burden and you're going to feel uncomfortable during that time. And it's okay. It's okay.
Mhm.
So, I've it's been challenging. It's been that feeling of uncomfortableness and
Mhm.
and um, worry and God, am I doing it right? But I'm just learning to still continue to be consistent and obedient in this
Yes.
season.
Yes, and that is how he'll do us. He
Mhm.
will he will dangle the idea, you do it, but really he is working on us, growing us, teaching us, and I'm just so proud of you and excited about your journey.
Thank you.
Her information will be below in the comments so that you can click on a link to get right to her and find her information. Please, if there's anything that you guys want to share, please comment. If there's any questions that you have for Mica, please let me know. I'll shoot it over to her, or you can find her at thecoveredwoman.com or her Instagram, The Covered Woman, or her Facebook, The Covered Woman.
Yes.
So I thank you so much for joining me. We shared a lot. I'm feel some type of way. Sometimes the podcasts are so long, but it's just so much rich, good things to share, to promote hope, to give you hope in your wifehood or your journey or your desire to want to be a wife. There's so much to it. Me and Mica have not even shared half the stuff.
Right. There's so much stuff, but of
So
course we
much stuff.
can't get it in.
There's so much more questions that I could be asking her right now. And I'm just writing it down as we go along so that if there needs to be a part 2, we can do that, because there's so much to share about the wife journey, and especially stuff that I didn't know before I got married. I
Right.
thought I knew, and then nobody could even tell me anything. I wasn't even at a receptive place in my life because all I saw was Hap, and I love him.
Right. Amen.
Now
Amen.
I need some help.
You're like,
you know
God.
So these podcasts are here to just give you hope and give you encouragement and to help you to just fight through, get through. Then
Right.
you can have a story like Mica, and you can have a ministry like this, and God can do great things once you get through whatever He's asking you to get through. So we just hope that you're encouraged, and we hope that you're blessed. Mica, thank you so much for joining.
Thank you for having me on. I'm
We might
excited.
do part 2. We might.
Yes. You're gonna have to let me know. I wouldn't mind coming on. Definitely, I feel like the women definitely it will be encouraged and benefit from this. So,
Well, we thank you so much for tuning in and listening, and we will talk to you guys all next week.
all right, bye.
Bye.